Hi everybody, this is Alchemist 2 and I'm back again with another movie review. I finally got to see Ancorman 2, Ron Burgundy, The Legend Continues, and I have to say, I like this one even better than the first one. It goes all out, and it might seem a little bit over the top to many people who have seen the first one, but I really didn't think it was, because I had watched the first Ron Burgundy time and time again and just laughed my butt off. And this second one is a little bit bawdier, but nonetheless I really enjoyed it. And in this one we're transitioning from the 70s into the 80s, and Veronica and Ron are still together. They're married and they have a young boy named Walter, but later on Ron is introduced to a more lucrative position. Actually, he's fired from his job by his idol, who's played by Harrison Ford, and I loved seeing him in this movie because he was just such an excellent, intimidating presence, and I never thought of him as a comedic actor, but I just thought that he pulled the part out really well. And I have to say that the cameos in this film were just epic. We had Sacha Baron Cohen as the exceedingly polite British newscaster. You had Tina Fey as one of the female broadcasters. You had Jim Carrey as the Canadian newscaster, apropos, I think. And then you had Vince Vaughn as Channel 9 newscaster. And I forget the guy who played in Walk Hard, but he played Stonewall Jackson's ghost, and he was really excellent. There's a mint julep waiting for you on the other side, son. And yeah, I can even do the accent. And then there's Liam Neeson. He was the broadcaster for what else? The History Channel. Since he does a lot of narrative on that station anyway, so it was accurate, and it was very funny. And of course, Brian, one of the news team of Ron's group of buddies, there's Motley Crue, he says, "What the heck is History Channel doing here? It's not even history, and they have a Minotaur. Minotaurs aren't history. They're mythology." And then you have Zac Efron as Jack Lime, or they're calling him Jack Lame. He has to legally change his name during a bet. It's really quite amusing. And within the duration of this movie, there's another really hilarious sex scene, just like in the first movie that they did. And of course, it has references to interracial sex, and that part, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't get all the references, but I knew what they were right away. And it kind of made me feel really awkward knowing that I knew these references and that nobody else understood them. And there were quite a few innuendos made, and just flat out obvious genital jokes, like the Australian anchor's mother's name was Badge. So I thought, yeah, my dad didn't get it. He's like, what? Like, vagina, Dad. It's like, yeah, okay. We were all laughing about that. Well, he wasn't laughing that much about it. I thought it was hysterical. I absolutely loved it. I just thought it was better than the first one. And it's a must-see if you like the first Ron Burgundy. It far exceeds anything that you've ever seen. And the cameos, my lord. Hallelujah for the cameos. They hit a home run with that. I give Ron Burgundy, Anchorman 2, Legend of Ron Burgundy, Legend Continues, 2 thumbs up, 5 stars hands down. And one of the funniest things that I absolutely loved about, other than apparently Brick dying and him coming to his own funeral and reading his own eulogy, which just cracked me up, and Ron Burgundy warming up his vocal cords at the very first scene. He's like, gather women and children out of the room, and he's screaming like a girl. I mean, he's warming up his vocal cords, but he's doing so in such a way that is just hysterical. But the one part I really like is when they're in the Bago, you know, the Winnebago, and he's got this little aquarium of, it's called a Terra something, I forget, it's like a Terra, no, what's the name of it? I can't think of it, but anyway, he's got this little habitat of scorpions that he keeps in there, and he's got a deep fat fryer, and he's got his Winnebago and cruise control, and my dad is asking the question, he's like, who's driving it? And, yeah, good question, Dad. And Champ says, well, Ron, who's driving the Bago? And he says, oh, don't worry about it, Champ, it's in cruise control, and cruise control controls speed, it doesn't control steering. And all of a sudden you see it veer out of control, and then it starts flipping over and over and over, and they all go into slow-mo, and what happens next is really quite amusing, but I'm not gonna even go I'm not even gonna go into why, but it is just funny as all get out, as one of my friends would say, but to use his expression. Oh, that's the hardest I've laughed in a good long time, other than when I watch Game Grumps. So I have a slight crush on Dan. Okay, I admitted to that. Sorry, he's Jewish. I like Jewish guys. What can I say? If you're out there, Dan, look me up. Anyway, he probably wouldn't call a goy girl anyway. Oh well. Here's hoping. That's all I basically have to say about Ancorman 2 and how hilarious it was. Just there was actually a lot of morals and values presented in this movie as well that at first probably didn't come across as such, but strangely comedic films have a way of doing this in such a subtle way that it's almost like subterfuge. I thought, yeah, the filmmakers really wanted to make a point here about family and relationships and friendship and just how important the truth is, especially in broadcasting. This is what I found so amusing about this film, because it makes a mocking, kind of tongue-in-cheek reference to how our media doesn't really report the news. Like back in Cronkite's day, I miss Cronkite. I mean, I know I say that like you don't even know who Cronkite is. I do know who Cronkite was, but unfortunately, I never really got to see him broadcast, which is because I was not even yet conceived at that time. But I still think that Cronkite did what he was supposed to do. It was supposed to be a watchdog, and right now it's just a bunch of entertainment mumbo jumbo jazz that's not even. And then they give away different positions that they shouldn't even do. And I think, why are you telling people this? Terrorists can see this, and it's no wonder people think that Americans are idiots. But nonetheless, flame me all you want. I am not a blind patriot. I know that there are certain flaws in my beautiful country, flaws of which I am very apt to point out. But despite that, I thought that the movie itself was very fun and entertaining, and the most random thing I've ever seen, other than the Doge memes. You talk about random, and that stuff doesn't make any sense, but this didn't make any sense in some situations. Like there's a scene in the future where they're all battling one another. I'm not going to say what happens, because if you've seen it, then you understand what I'm talking about. But I'm thinking, what the heck? I don't understand how that just came to be. This does not follow my logic, but despite that, that was my one little. But I mean, comedy really doesn't follow physics or logic or anything. It just kind of goes on its own. It follows the beat of its own drummer, and that's what I like about it. This one was so totally random that I just absolutely loved it. This is the most spontaneous film of the year.